But boys like you tell pretty lies. The 5 a.m. low in your eyes says your heart is changing.
This is Broad Radio for Women's Health Week. A Broad Radio pop-up show for Jean Hales for Women's Health.
Hello and welcome to this very special pop-up show of Broad Radio, celebrating Women's Health Week for Jean Hales for Women's Health. I'm Jo Stanley and my co-host for today is the very healthy Angela Pippos. Hi there, Ange.
Hi, Jo. I've been looking forward to this for weeks. This is my favourite topic.
Yes, you are someone who embraces physicality and sport and exercise and healthy living with the right amount of balance, might I say.
Yes, I thought you were going to say with the right amount of wine.
That's what balance is. That's our code word.
It's the only reason I exercise is so I can enjoy food and wine.
Yes, so well, we'll get to the balance of this whole conversation in just a moment. All of this week we are bringing you shows at 1 p.m. live every day. We are going to be covering the 5 themes that Women's Health Week is covering this week, and we are doing it in partnership with Jean Hales for Women's Health. We do suggest to get along to jeanhales.org.au and check out all of their amazing resources. Jean Hales is a fabulous not-for-profit organisation dedicated to improving the health of women at every stage of life, which is one of the things I really love about them, every stage of life. So we encourage you to check out Jean Hales because we're really thrilled to be partnering with them. As I said, this week, every day brings with it a different theme, and today's theme is Move It Monday. Yes, so today we're talking about all the things that are going to keep us moving at every age for our fitness, for our health and our general well-being. And to help us get off the couch, we are joined by a sports scientist from Victorian Institute of Sport, Sylvie Withers. Hi there, Sylvie.
Hi girls, how are we?
Well,
good.
We're here to, yes, I'm healthy and well. I'm very pleased to be here and grateful for it. Let me tell you, today is all about having a conversation that is motivating and really useful. We want this to bring with it lots of tips that are going to help us all get off the couch, as I said. So we really encourage you, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook right now, please share your questions and comments in the comments, because when do you ever get a sports scientist at your disposal to ask questions? I'm excited. Ange, are you?
Yes, I pretend to be an expert on this, but I'm not. We actually have a real expert with us today.
I know.
Woo-hoo.
It is amazing. And you are hot off the press of training some of Australia's most incredible Paralympians as well, Sylvie, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've just had the Paralympics have just wrapped up. We had some pretty amazing performances over there, and I'm very privileged to get to spend my working days helping them achieve all their goals.
Well, we're not professional athletes, so we'd like we'd like you to be kind to us. Because, I'm making a terrible noise in the microphone as I laugh at the thought of me and my pitiful attempts at exercise. My first question then, to kick off this conversation, Sylvie, is we know, right, and I actually read this morning on the Jean Hales website, we know that we all should be exercising roughly 30 minutes a day for most days, right? Hand on heart, I don't do that. Ange, do you manage 30 minutes a day most days?
Most days. I mean, lockdown, we're going to get to lockdown. Lockdown has come with some challenges, but it also presents opportunities, which I'm sure Sylvie will talk about. But half an hour, most of the time.
Well, then you're doing so much better than me. I want to know, why do we need to keep our body moving? We know we should, but tell me why.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the reasons are immense. Keeping our bodies want to move for starters, and we, actually being active means that our body will continue to work as it should. As we grow older, we're more, at risk of things like cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, all these sorts of things come along, and exercise is a really good way of combating them or reducing your risk. Not only that, but also, and in particular during COVID times, it's really good for your mental health. Getting out in the sunshine, being social, getting your heart pumping that little bit more, little bit harder, really, makes us feel good.
So, Sylvie, here's my dilemma. Excuse me, I've been active my whole life. I've played netball. I enjoy running. I'm a sports journalist, so I've been surrounded by actual real athletes for most of my adult life. My real age is 51. In my head, I'm 25. So the problem I have is finding the right sort of exercise to match my age, and also, warming up properly and warming down and all of that sort of stuff. What can I do to prevent injury at this age?
Yeah. So, I mean, starting small and building gradually is the key. Even our elite athletes, they don't train full throttle all the time. It takes a long time to build up gradually. So it's just remembering as well that something is better than nothing. We don't have to go for a run if you're not a runner. It's not something that, you absolutely have to be running, 10Ks every second day. It's just starting small, and great if you do have a training history and you've got a training background, then you probably also know what sort of things you enjoy doing. But again, just no need to go full throttle, and you don't need to be completely smashing yourself every day. Again, our elite athletes don't do that. We have days where, their recovery sessions, really low intensity. Again, something is better than nothing. And if we go too hard, too regularly, or too soon, then our bodies aren't ready for it. And there is nothing more demotivating than being injured and having to then be forced to sit on the couch.
So my follow-up question there is, at the end of 2019, I was just dancing in the backyard with my son, and I jumped and I snapped my Achilles. And so I was out of action for a long time. What worries me is doing something so simple like jumping created this very nasty injury. So I guess I now sort of struggle mentally with what can I do if jumping brought me undone.
Jumping.
Yeah.
Jumping's
a lot more. It's a lot more complex than we probably think. And I think in our earlier years, it just comes naturally. We prance around and jump around however we want. But it's when you increase the impact, so things like running and jumping, increase the amount of load that's going through your joints and muscles. And if you're not warm and if you're not trained up and have the supporting muscles, to help you safely land, then you're going to be at much higher risk of injury.
But see, my question around that, right, because I'm 49 in age, and sometimes I feel about 72 in my mind. And other times I do feel 25, just like Ange. But I'm surrounded by women who, it seems from like about 40 onwards, at some point will end up in a moon boot. And it's doing the strangest things. Like it's maybe just stepping a little bit off a curb, or sometimes it's alcohol related, but often not. Sometimes it's dancing in the lounge room with your like it's the dumbest things. And moon boots are plenty at school pickup. Like they're everywhere. So that's made me think that somehow there's a decline in is it our tendon strength and all the things we usually do, and I do run, am I heading for a moon boot? That's my question.
So we do, as we age, our hormones change. There's a lot of change and fluctuation within our bodies, and part of that is that our muscles sort of degrade more easily or more quickly. So that's where being really consistent with your activity is the key. If you get some sudden burst of inspiration and motivation and decide to dance around the house and pirouette or jump off, whatever, then if you're not used to it, your body's not conditioned for it, then you're going to be putting yourself at risk. But it's definitely as we age, our bodies do change the way and it's even more important then to be consistent with activity and different activities. So you want to incorporate things like balance as well. That starts to go after a certain age, and then you're more inclined to trip or fall. But also a step down from that is that our muscles just and our bones as well need impact. Then you need weight bearing exercise to train them to be able to do what they're meant to do.
Okay, so let's break that down, because we have lots of reasons not to exercise, things like doing our Achilles, so we're recovering from an injury, sometimes chronic illness, sometimes feeling, you say our bodies want to move. I disagree. Sometimes, often my body doesn't want to move. It's sore and tired and it doesn't feel like it did 10 years ago. So what are some things we can do when perhaps we are feeling a little bit like we're not as strong or as full of energy as we're used to? Yeah,
so a good thing to help with the motivation to get out and get active is to align it with something else that you enjoy. So whether that's socialising, so meeting up with a friend in the park, and it could be just for a walk, you could be doing a bodyweight circuit or something, or if you're more inclined to want something more meaningful out of your exercise, signing up for a beach cleanup or making it about something bigger than just exercise. The worst thing we can do is make exercise feel like a chore, because then if we do have those off days where you wake up and you're not really feeling it, that's going to be the first thing to go, because you feel like none of us like being told what to do, and we're constantly being told you have to exercise, it's good for you. So it's about finding enjoyment in what you're doing as well. And starting small and making it social. If you're having an off day as well, getting outside and actually getting some sunshine can really help boost your mood. And it's not often that you finish exercise or physical activity and feel, worse for it. You release all these happy hormones, that then shoot through your system and make you feel, they boost your self-esteem, they make you feel warm and fuzzy, make you feel like you've accomplished something. So as much as we might have days where, and again, elite athletes have off days as well, they, just don't feel like it. But if you can align your exercise with something else that makes you happy, walking to go and get a coffee, that's your reward. So, make sure that you have that extra level of reward or motivation to really get you out and going.
And lockdown has presented a lot of challenges because there's a sameness to it. And I find that I can feel really weary not doing anything. It's just the boredom, the routine, the uncertainty, the stress of not knowing what's happening, the political mishandling of the whole thing. It makes you feel tired. It really does. But I'm also noticing that by being stuck at home, there's more you can do around the house to exercise. And I've started this weights before wine policy, where most nights I do my dumbbells and then I reward myself with a glass of wine. What else can we do around the house?
Yeah, so I mean, the great thing is that we've all learnt that there's so much more that you can do around the house than what we probably originally thought. You don't need to have special equipment. You don't have to have all the gear and all the outfits. You can fill a backpack full of books, strap it to your back and do a body weight circuit, but with some added weight. Even things like vacuuming and mowing the lawn, not all that thrilling, but but they get your heart pumping, and you get a sense of achievement, because you not only are you exercising, but you're ticking off something that is otherwise pretty boring. Also using music and all podcasts and things to change up the atmosphere and the vibe of your workout. A lot of platforms as well have gone online, so there are a lot of online exercise classes that you can go along with, yoga at home as well. There's so many things that you can do. You actually don't need to go out. You don't need to have all the equipment. It's just that sometimes that's kind of nice to get out into a different environment.
Can I ask some sort of factual things then from you? And with your weight training, you've really inspired me to ask this question, because I've been told numerous times that over a certain age, women need to do weight-bearing exercise. Can you explain why and what that needs to look like?
Yeah. So as we age, as I mentioned earlier, our muscles, start to the quality kind of starts to degrade. But that's the same with our bones as well. And our bones, so as we age, we're more prone to osteoporosis, which basically is decreases the density of your bones and increases your risk of breaks and fractures if we knock or fall. In order to try and maintain the strength of your bones, you need to put load through them. So things like swimming is a great activity, but it's non-weight bearing. So you're not actually putting any load through your bones, when we're doing that. So things like walking, running and jumping if we're there. But then you also need to factor in the upper body as well. So it can just be putting your own body weight through. You don't necessarily have to, add extra weight as well. But it's good to progress through that. If you haven't done strength training before, definitely start just with body weight exercises. But it's really important to put that load through your bones and through your muscles, so that they're conditioned to support you the way that they're built to.
And so when you say upper body weight, that means like push-ups and like what kind of actual exercises should I be doing? Yeah.
So can be things like push-ups and dips. Even if we're doing, if we're not that strong or confident in our balance and ability, it's even using the armrest on your chair, and when you're getting up and down out of the chair, really using the weight through your arms to push you up and push you down. Also things like if you have a weighted something to throw, if you have, unlike me, no hand-eye coordination, so I won't be throwing and catching anything. But also things like holding a plank. It's putting some pressure through your bones and your muscles.
Whenever there's something wrong with me, my go-to position is just to say it's hormonal, because I'm in that age bracket where it's could be hormonal. But it's good to have you on the show to provide some kind of science around this assumption that I always make. Can you explain in simple terms, what is happening in our late 40s, early 50s hormonally, and how that impacts in terms of exercise?
Yeah, so I guess when we get through to that age bracket, your body is now turning away from the idea of reproducing. You're not now needing to be primed for childbirth. So your hormones start to change, and what used to give us sort of a surge of confidence and sort of the will to keep ourselves active and healthy in order to carry a baby, which is primarily what our female hormones are geared around at those earlier ages. When they start to change, it impacts everything that we do. So like I was mentioning, it changes the way that our muscles and our bones sort of work properly, and we just need to be a little bit more, I guess, careful in the activities that we partake in.
Yeah.
So are you saying that, like, say estrogen being one of them, like as our hormones change, the estrogen impacts our actual confidence? I've not heard that relationship with, I just thought that our confidence dips when we get to our age, and because we just look a shadow of our former selves. I didn't realise.
There's some research to show that in particular during our ovulation phase, that's the phase where our bodies are getting primed to receive the sperm that's going to fertilize the egg. And so that's the phase where we're fluffing our feathers, and the change in the hormones really give us more self-confidence, and so that we're more,
flirty,
attractive to our male counterparts. So
sure.
it is, we also tend in that period to be more daring, and because we're more confident, we take more risks also in that period. So wanted to keep that in mind. But once our bodies start moving away from that, normal menstrual cycle, it can just change. Everything sort of gets warped, and the way that our bodies respond to our hormones is quite different.
Wow, that's so interesting. And just as an aside, does that mean with athletes, like professional athletes, do they hope that they are competing when they're ovulating, so that they're more kind of, I don't know, physical and risk-taking?
So we really encourage our athletes to track, and I would encourage everyone to track your menstrual cycle and understand what your symptoms are and what's normal for your cycle. And certainly in more technical sports, we might during training encourage the learning of a new new DD or new technique during that ovulation phase, because they have more confidence and potentially more ability to follow through with it. You often feel a lot just happier. It's like this. It's the summer phase, of the cycle. So you've got a bit more of a spring in your step. So we might do that. There's not a huge amount of quality evidence to say that there is a very general approach. So we have to look at each individual and see how they naturally respond.
That is so fascinating. I should mention tomorrow's show for Women's Health Week, 1:00 live, we are talking periods. So we'll be delving deeper into our cycles and how, in fact, it impacts all areas of our lives. We are going to take a very quick break because we're going to get to some questions that we're getting from social media at the moment. I'm just going to mention that if you're new to Broad Radio, we broadcast every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. live, and this is a little bit of what we're about.
Broad Radio, talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9am Australian Eastern Standard Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call or text on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2am existential crisis? We've got you covered. Broad Radio. Here for more.
So I know, Ange, you have lots still questions to ask as well of Sylvie. I'm gonna shoot one to you though this is from our producer Sess, who wants to know, while lots of us are in lockdown, do you think there's value in doing things like getting a Nintendo Fit or those, those sorts of workouts that you see that are kind of gaming in a way?
Yeah. So, I mean, if it adds some activity to your day, if it's increasing your heart rate a bit and getting you moving, absolutely. They can be quite repetitive movements though. So I remember when Wii Fit first came out, my brother and I are super competitive, and we were going absolutely nuts, and we both ended up with tennis elbow, having not even picked up a tennis racket because we were just so competitive with it. So again, moderation is key, but certainly there are also the dance. You can get a dance mat and do those sorts of games as well. So absolutely, I mean, anything goes if it gets you moving, if it gets your heart pumping that little bit harder, then it's worth it.
I think that's Moonboot territory right there, in my opinion.
Exhibit A.
That's right. Look at Ange. Okay, here's another question. How quickly does our fitness deteriorate if we aren't using it? Like in that sort of use it or lose it kind of philosophy.
Yeah. So it does start to deteriorate relatively quickly. It depends on quite a few different factors. So it depends on your training age or your training history. If you have a good training history, you tend to, you can lose it a little bit slower, but you also gain or get back to that level of fitness quicker than if it's the first time you've been there. But yeah, unfortunately it takes a lot longer to improve your fitness than it does for it to start to decline.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. This is kind of a bit more of a broader question, but I hear from lots of the other mums at school that they would like to be exercising more, but they feel as though after they've looked after everybody else in the house and taken kids here, there and everywhere, there's no time left for them to do what they want to do. And I guess there is that social pressure. As a woman, your society reminds you all the time that you are the primary carer. How can we put ourselves front and centre when it comes to fitness and just block out all the noises we hear from everywhere else?
So one of the really key things, and in particular during COVID life and during lockdowns, is to actually block out the time. So actually factor in the hour of the day or the half hour of the day that you're going to do your activity. If that means if you're a morning person, getting up before everyone else and going for your walk early on, but it's really important to actually set aside time in your day that's for you. If you can incorporate it with walking the kids to school or something, then that's great. But, you can achieve a lot just in half an hour, or you can even break it up. It doesn't have to be in one block either. You could do 3 10-minute walks at some point during the day. So the key, though, is to really make sure that you actively, schedule it into your day.
Yeah. I actually just read that this morning, the 3 times 10 minutes in a day can be equal to a 30-minute block. Is this correct?
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled to read that.
So it just depends what you're doing as well. And in terms of I guess, the intensity of the exercise. When we're talking about, half an hour most days of the week, moderate intensity is the key, I guess, and that's things like walking. It's getting your heart rate up, but you're still able to speak in full sentences. Mm-hmm. If you increase your intensity, there are added benefits to that, but it's just more efficient, really. So when you might spend half an hour walking, you could achieve similar benefits with 15 minutes of running. But if you're not a runner, then stick to the walking.
Yeah. And brings up mothers there, which leads me to pelvic floor. Because I think I've started this skipping routine with my daughter who's 12, just as sort of a thing to get her moving. We're doing it together. It's super hilarious, but every now and then I have to go, hold that thought, run to the loo. Because it's touch and go every now and then, the skipping for me. How can is there a way of actually strengthening our pelvic floor so that we can exercise with confidence?
Yeah, absolutely. So pelvic floor is obviously super important, and actually exercise-induced incontinence, which is where we might, pee a little bit when we run or jump. It's really very common, and not just postpartum, and not just as we age, although it does become more prevalent again as we age because of our muscles, declining. And your pelvic floor is a muscle, so it's a muscle that works like a sling to hold your uterus, your bowel, and your bladder in place. The exercise-induced incontinence can happen at any age, so from teenagers all the way through the ages. It is quite common, but more often than not, it's entirely treatable. The issue is that we assume that the leakage is because of a weakness. And it could be a weakness, it could be damage to your pelvic floor, but it also could be because your pelvic floor is overactive. So the first thing you need to do is actually work out what the issue is. If you're doing your Kegel exercises and your Pilates and things, and that's not improving the situation, it's probably not because it's weak. It might be because it's overactive. So
what's that mean though, overactive?
So it's like any other muscle. If you overuse it, or you don't know how to relax and release it, then it becomes less effective. The only way as well that you can really tell if your pelvic floor is activated and engaged is an internal examination. Mm-hmm. So people will sometimes say, put your hand on your lower abdomen and, contract your pelvic floor. You're not feeling your pelvic floor when your hand's on your abdomen. You're feeling your lower abs.
It's good to know.
Pelvic floor
good to know the difference.
It's a very deep muscle. But there are heaps of pelvic floor physios and women's health specialists who day in, day out, this is their bread and butter. And there are a number of different exercises, but it just depends on what the actual issue is. So, if your first port of call is to try and self-diagnose and do your exercises, if that's not working, then I'd recommend to go and see a specialist and get the right exercises. It can be really hard to feel and know whether you're actually activating your pelvic floor or not, so they can really help you through that.
I want to talk about boobs. I don't know why I've had to point to them, because I'm sure
we know where they are.
That's weird.
Pelvic floor, I know where that is too.
Yes. I'm sure Sylvie knows where the boobs are. What's the best way to keep all that area in good health when we're exercising?
Yeah, so it's sort of like anything else. We need, if we're going to go for a run, we don't put on, our thongs or our slippers and expect that that's going to work out well. We need to make sure that we've got the properly fitted bra. And in general, I think people are pretty lax with their bra fitting, for every day. And then when it comes to sports bras, we don't even think about getting a proper fitting. It's sort of, there's a big difference between a supportive sports bra and a crop top. And these days, a lot of the exercise gear, you can get, matching tights and crop tops, which look great, but they're not actually providing that much support, which means that it can be just really uncomfortable, can cause extra neck and back pain as well if they're not properly supported, and you can actually just do damage to your breast tissue if they're not properly supported. So getting a proper sports bra fitting is absolutely key to that. And obviously during COVID, that's a little bit tricky to actually go into a store and get a fitting. But there are places that do online consultations as well. There's a place in Melbourne called She Science, and they are entirely about, fitting of sports bras. And they do a biomech analysis and work out what it is that you particularly need to look at in terms of your support.
I've literally just written that down because I have never had a properly fitting sports bra. Always uncomfortable. Don't know about you, Ange.
And then I wear a sports bra, and then I wear the crop top over the top, so they're not going anywhere. It's like double locked in. Is that too much, or is that okay?
So it's really common, people, especially larger busted people, wear multiple sports bras or crop tops. If you get the right one for the right activity, so you might be doing more high impact activity, so you feel like you really need to strap them down. You can generally find that there will be an actual sports bra that will be well suited to your shape and size and the activity that you want to do. But if you want that extra support, there's nothing wrong with adding a crop top over the top, as long as it's comfortable enough for you that it's not going to actually inhibit what you want to do.
Yeah.
I love that as a tip, Ange, and I really love She Science too. We just checked out their website. They look amazing. I'm literally going straight to there because, there is no bra that's made for women, I think, and just to get out and exercise and not worry about that. And I'm not a large woman either, so I often think, and we hear that women's clothing often keeps women from exercising, which kind of breaks my heart from, teenage years up. Isn't that true, Sylvie?
Yeah, absolutely. It can make a big difference in either in support, but also in comfort. And I was focusing more on, big busted people need support, but it doesn't matter what size breast you have. If you have any breast tissue at all, you need to support it properly for good health going on.
A couple of other questions we've had come through from someone who personally loathes cardio. Is high intensity exercise a non-negotiable?
Not necessarily. I mean, high intensity exercise, there are other benefits that you get from that, and like I said before, it can be more efficient with the health benefits that you get from it. But it depends on what you're interested in. If you really don't enjoy it, then you're not likely to continue doing it. And doing one high intensity session, every 10 years. is not going to get you that far. But you can do things, if you're more of a walker, think of incorporating a set of stairs into your walk. So you don't have to go at any pace, but there's an added level of complexity and challenge to it. Or adding in a hill. So try and maintain your walking pace while you're going up the hill. You'll find that your legs will hurt a bit more, your heart will pump, you'll be breathing a bit more heavily, but it's not the same mentally or physically as trying to commit yourself to something really high intensity, sweating and getting all about the place. As I said earlier, something is better than nothing. and it's about working in what works for you.
And
do you know what
sorry, you go, Ange.
Sorry.
You go.
I was just on walking.
Yeah.
What I've discovered in lockdown is that there are some very serious walkers in my suburb.
Yes.
Like they're on the path and they will not deviate for anyone, even a runner. They think that they are more important than the runners. And they walk sometimes 3 abreast. And there's a real intensity about it.
Mm-mm.
It's crazy.
I have a friend who walks like her elbows are like quite. They're violent. If you don't keep up, you're in trouble. And this,
which is great if you can.
Well, that's right. If you can kind of stay with it. But so walking is just as good as running.
They are different. So, running will give because it's putting more stress on your body. So, if you're conditioned for it, if you're able to take the load through your joints and muscles, and you enjoy running, the benefits are just they're more. They're just more benefits if you can run and if you can push. It's about stressing your body effectively, and your body is really good at adapting to stress. So the more stress, and I'm talking exercise stress, not workload, COVID stress. So that's not the stress we want, but actual physical stress through your body. There are more benefits with running, but there are also more risks. So again, you've got to weigh up your risk versus reward. There's no point in going for a run and tearing your hammy and then having to sit out for a while. But it might just mean that instead of running for half an hour or running for 15, 20 minutes, you walk for half an hour. So you might need to do a slightly more volume at the lower intensity, but the health benefits are still there.
Yeah. So just we've got a few more questions, and then I think we're going to play a little video for you actually that Ange and I both want to bring up with you, Sylvie. Someone's asking, do you need to learn how to run? Because not everyone knows how to run.
It's interesting when you do, if you go out and you watch people running and you think, wow, there are so many different styles of running. There are definitely ways of being more efficient. I used to always overstride. I have long legs, and I used to think that the best thing for me is to really use the length of my legs to increase my speed and distance. But overstriding then meant that I had more joint pain, and then I didn't run as much. So it was a friend of mine who used to get coaching running who said, bring that in a bit. So it is important to, if you feel discomfort, if you start getting pains, then it might be worth getting a bit of coaching to try and work out your technique so that you're a bit more efficient and less prone to injury.
I don't have that problem, long legs overstriding.
No, you're a teeny tiny person. And this brings up another question that we had. Do we need to find the right exercise for our physiology?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing as well, not everyone's built to run. I'd like to say I'm not built to run. I'm more a water sport girl, but it's about our physiology, but it's also about what we enjoy. So if we're the physiology is probably more important if we're planning on taking it to the top. So if you want to be the absolute best at a particular sport, then there's a lot of factors in there that you need to take into account. But if it's just for our general health, if it's just for our health and well-being, then you can kind of do anything. It might not, you might not be the best at it, but there's not a lot to stop you from trying something.
Well, and I think
I want to be the best at everything I do, and that holds me back.
You're extremely competitive, Ange. Whereas,
I am.
See, I've come to peace with the fact that it's about the process and the practice rather than the result. Because that's why we do it, isn't it? Well, I think netball has passed you by. They're not going to call you up. Ange.
There are masters games.
True, and I've seen that there's walking netball now too for people who they can't run anymore. They're walking netball. How good's that?
No, I want to run. I haven't given up on the dream.
No, don't give up on the dream. We're going to play a video, and this is one of the fantastic resources that they have on the Gene House website. It's just a little explainer on all the different ways you can find exercise, and there's just a little thing that we want to bring up with you, Sylvie, early on. Thanks, Ro.
It's great to do regular physical activities like swimming or walks that keep your heart rate going at a moderate but comfortable pace. It's recommended we aim for 2.5 hours of moderate activity in total every week. But there are also ways you can get moving a little more every day to help reach this weekly goal. 1. Move around when you're on your mobile. When you take a call, pace around or do a lap of the office or front yard.
Okay, that's it. Pace around when on the mobile phone. And
it doesn't sound too exciting.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
Oh, look, both of us have partners that pace whilst on the phone. And I mean, I'm glad that my husband is getting exercise because it's really that he gets out from behind the office desk. But honestly, how annoying is it, Ange?
Oh, it is so annoying, but I get exercise trying to get away from him when he's on the phone. So, I mean, I guess I'm getting some exercise. He comes into my room and then I go into the next room and then is it a masculine trait to have to pace around and really heavy on the feet?
Oh, yes.
When they're on the phone.
Oh, and it's like, I always say it's like, you know, he's sort of got some kind of Wall Street thing going on. Like he's going, sell, buy. That's the kind of vibe he's got when really he's just gossiping with his mates. But the incidental exercise is very important though. So just to wrap up, give us some inspiration how we're going to take some exercise into our day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, COVID again's been really tricky because we're not out and about as much. So our incidental exercise has probably decreased a bit, but we can boost it back up by, if we're going to the grocery store, parking in the furthest parking spot to make the walk in and walk back a little bit longer. As I said, things like mowing the lawns and vacuuming, going for a walk to get your coffee, things like that. And we laugh, but a lot of workplaces have become a lot more, flexible with walking meetings. So whether when we're allowed to be in person, going for a walk to have your meeting, or if you're on the phone, going and doing a walk, maybe not pacing backwards and forwards in the room and annoying everyone in your house, but open the door and shove them outside and make them pace outside. But just things like that. So you're increasing the steps that you're taking without actually actively making it an actual activity. It's just increasing. If you get a newspaper delivery, cancel the delivery and walk to the newsagent to go and pick it up each morning. So it's just things like that where we're just increasing our incidental, our steps that we're not thinking about. Grocery shopping's great. I love grocery shopping. I love going up and down every aisle and seeing what's new. I know. I think you either love it or you love it. But you can get a lot of steps in just doing the groceries.
I mean, I love that, but I think the power walking up and down the aisle with the elbows out is just a bit too much. I'm here to tell you.
Elbowing everyone
Sylvie,
out of the way.
it's too much.
In the active wear.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Sylvie, it's just been so wonderful to have you. I actually think that one of the keys to this whole conversation for all women is recognising that we are important enough to prioritise our physical activity, because we don't make time in our lives, and we just bit by bit lose kind of a sense of self-love of our physicality. And so much of it is to go, actually, you are worth that. I know it's sort of a cliche, but we have to remind ourselves of that, don't we, Sylvie?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's giving ourselves just that half an hour in the day where we prioritise ourselves.
So important. Thank you so much. I want to thank you to everybody who's been commenting along the way. Thanks to Katrina, who said that in lockdown, the exercise was an absolute lifesaver for her. And she says when people are pacing, you've got to watch where they're going when they're pacing. Absolutely true. Thank you so much to Fern as well, who's one of our favourites, who joins us often. And she said that she's been kicking my one-touch footy with herself, which I just love. One-touch footy is awesome when you see the ladies out there playing that game, don't you? And do you see them down the beach when we're out of lockdown?
Yeah, I do. I can't quite get to the beach with the 5K radius at the moment.
No, not at the moment.
I look forward to getting back, though. I look forward to us having our broad radio meetings while we're walking.
I know, we will do that. Walk and talk. It's fantastic. Sylvie, thank you so much. You've given us lots of motivation today. I'm going to head out into the sunshine with my dog and get around the block a couple of times now. So thank you.
Fantastic. Enjoy.
Yes. So we will be back with Broad Radio tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and at 1 p.m. tomorrow live. We're going to be talking tricky periods, so don't miss it. That's this week for Women's Health Week, and all thanks to Jean Hells for Women's Health. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.